and welcome to our pre-match press conference to preview our game against Aston Villa. We'll start off with Vinny at Sky.
Sean, I just wanted to start with sad news about John Watson today, actually. You're only 4 years older than me, so I'd imagine, as well as your career of football, there'll be memories going back to when you were growing up with John Watson.
Yeah, absolutely. Legend. His voice alone. But when you met him a few times, like I have done, I'm sure you have done down the years, you know, he's a top fella as well. So, yeah, sad loss.
Also wanted to ask you about the government white paper out today as regards football governance and the possible introduction of an independent regulator into the game. What thoughts do you have on the prospect of that?
Well, only, obviously, I presume it's new to it, or the fact that it's going that high into government, it's new. So we'll have to wait and see what the details are. But, you know, you can only appreciate if they're trying to put something that's good for the game, the whole game, then that's fair. So we'll have to wait and see what it brings. But I understand, you know, football's got that big now that I suppose it has to be looked at to make sure everything's in place.
It kind of ties in with the situation at the football club, because obviously you've been asked each week about the disconnect between the fans of this football club and the board. I just wonder how the situation is for you, because we've seen obviously situations where a director of football's not been here at your first news conference, the board aren't there at 2 victories at Goodison Park. On the outside, it doesn't look like the most normal of situations. But what's it like being in that situation?
No, it's been fine inside, because, you know, they still speak to me, they still connect with me. You know, director of football, I don't see why he'd have to be here at my press conference, to be honest. But there's no problems at all from me, from a connecting point of view. Speaking when I need to. You know, they've sent messages, asked me questions when needed. But, you know, I don't think it's on an everyday basis at most football clubs, and I don't need that. If they needed it, I'm sure they'd let me know. So the lines of communication have been fine. You know, I've just tried to be respectful of all parties, because, you know, I'm new to the club. I know the club, of course I do, and the history and all that, but I'm new to it. You know, I'm the new manager, so I'm kind of walking in the middle of things, learning as I go. So I'm not going to start quizzing and questioning everything. I've just got to make sure that we can try and bring the reconnection. You know, if there is a disconnect, we've got to try and bring the reconnection, because the fans are a massively important part of this club. I understand that, and I'm learning more and more about that. The energy, the passion. So it's got to be respected. So it's just, you know, can we bring it back together? Can we find the right way of bringing it back together? Wins help. You know, it helps the feel-good factor around a football club. It doesn't solve everything, but it makes it feel better. And hopefully that brings some kind of alignment and connection, or new alignment and connection, because I think it's important for a football club, and it's important for myself as the manager to play my part if I can.
What can you tell us about the contact from board level after those 2 home wins that you've had?
Yeah, just usual stuff, you know. I think there's enough connection from the owner, from the chairman, from anyone relevant to the club, of course, at the highest level, from the different parts of the club they need to connect with. Myself, it's usually about football, as you can imagine. Players' fitness, welfare, team results, etc., etc. And that's been very open, as I am, and shared, you know, what I think of the current status quo and what we're doing and what we're looking to do.
As well as the positivity of 2 wins at Goodison, it seems there's more positive news with Jordan Pickford about to sign a new contract, and we're told that there's no relegation release clause in there as well. What can you tell us about that?
Well, I'm not really bothered about release clauses and all that. That's nothing to do with me. But no, I mean, it's more to do with the fact he's a very, very good player. We know that. A good servant to this football club so far as well, and going to continue to be that, I'm sure. I think it's a sign he's enjoying our new regime, if you like. I think he's accepting of what we're looking to offer. And I know he's been a fantastic player, so we want him to continue doing that. And any way we can rub off on him and help him to continue his development will be great if he feels there is stuff, and I think there is.
Anything else in the pipeline? I'm thinking maybe Alex Iwobi and a new deal. Connor Cody maybe.
Everything will be looked at accordingly. Obviously, you know, I'm 3 odd weeks in, whatever it is. Feels like about 17 months, but. No, you know, I'm still pretty new to it, but no, we're assessing every situation. You know, some have been ongoing, like Jordan's, and I mean, I've been put in line with that, of course, and asked my opinion, quite obviously. But yeah, so we're ongoing, looking at all situations. You know, because we've got to make sure that all the good players that we want here are still here.
What's Dominic Calvert-Lewin been able to do in training this week, and any chance for the weekend?
I don't think so. I think he's building up well, though. He's on the grass. He's not with us yet, but that'll come quite quickly, I think. He's building up well. Like I said, you know, there's no human bodies. There's no absolute definite, but our intention is to get him as fit as possible. so that we can hopefully break this spell of ins and outs with the ups and downs of injuries. And if anything, that's what we're hoping to do, whilst also making sure we can get him back as quick as possible, because we want all players available, not just him, all players available. Because obviously Pato's coming back, he's got a little minor knock on his knee, so that's delayed him training this week. Jimmy's coming back as well, so we've got people coming back. Amma's not serious, more of a knock, so he's just monitoring that, but he's been training. We want all players back fit.
I mean, Amma's fit for the weekend then?
Yeah.
And Stephen Defoe had that chat with him this week. What do you hope that Amma's taken from that?
Well, I was with him, so I know what was said. I just thought it was someone who had been a very, very good player as a youngster as well, and Stephen Defoe that is, and Amadou, but to find that connection and get him to understand some of the stuff that I think Stephen learned. Because it's, as a manager, you have a voice, quite obviously, in your staff and the analytics. We can show them clips and that, but sometimes it's nice for other players to speak to your players. And I've got no problem with that, and other coaches even. As long as they're coaches who are not at other clubs, obviously. But no, I think that's a refreshing thing. I offered it to him. I didn't say I had to. I just said, look, he's someone I class as a football friend as well as a very, very good player, cutting his teeth in his own coaching pathway now, and I felt it was a sort of different view. And Amma was very open to it. So, they had a good chat.
I think Stephen said he sees Amma as someone who can become a real midfield powerhouse.
Well, it's there's no reason why not. It's the challenge right in front of him. He's still very young. He's still learning the game. And we're just trying to help him fast-track his learning and keep improving.
When we build up to this game, and speaking to fans as well, they see the possibility of 3 home wins on the bounce as being massive for the football club at this stage. How do you see it?
I see it's another important game. They all are. I think we were not miles off, but a little bit below par at Liverpool, but, a couple of mistakes. The other 2 performances have been very strong, I think. The home crowd have played their part without a doubt. And the feel-good factor, it just builds. You've got to keep performing. That's the key. And then you get the wins, and it just keeps building that mentality. So we want that, but we've got to go and earn the right. As I always say, there's no gimmies in the Premier League. I've learnt that from all my years in it, and now it's about taking the challenge on from the last one, taking the feel-good factor, taking the performance into the next one.
We saw the threat that Villa have against Arsenal, and I suppose the positivity that you've seen in that atmosphere at Goodison will have a big part to play against a side like that.
Yeah, I think the reconnection of the passion from the fans and the players, and that feel-good factor comes from performances starting off, and then I think Evertonians, what I'm learning, they will accept a performance where everyone gives their lot. If you add on to top of that a win, obviously that just is the icing on the cake. So we've got to remember our performance levels. I think that's important. But the players are in, as you can imagine, they're in good shape at the minute, mentally and physically.
Thanks, Finney. We'll go to Fraser at Premier League.
I was going to ask on that, Sean, the feel-good factor, and you said that the players are looking good in training. Do you see the pressure, if you like, coming off the players a little bit with each passing game now that you've got a couple of wins in the bag? Is it coming off their shoulders and they're performing better because of that, do you think?
Your life in football involves pressure. From a very young age, people sometimes forget that. And I remind the players, they've been playing under pressure since they were probably 10 years old, because when you're the top player in any group, there's almost like a subliminal pressure with that, so it's always there. It's there. You learn to handle it, the highs, the lows, the indifferent periods, the great times that you have, all of it. And that's part of learning as a professional footballer. So I'm always just open with it. I'm with myself. It's the challenges come thick and fast in professional football. It can't all be rosy all the time. So I think the consistent values that we work to, the consistent values we're hoping to continue to instill into the team, that maybe gives you just a more, as I call it, a base to work from. So if a few challenges come your way, you've got that to grip hold of. And when things are looking after themselves, then you're free-flowing and playing well. So I think it's a bit of that I work with the players on and keeping them level as well, because we certainly stay level as a staff, I can assure you.
And we saw after the game against Leeds what it meant to Seamus Coleman to get that win. How important has he been to everything that you've been trying to put across to the rest of the squad?
Well, I think he's another factor in the side. There's his history of the club, obviously, but he's a very, very good professional. Every manager, I think, who's been here has spoken about that. And I think he's enjoying the job. Well, I know he is, because I spoke to him about it. He's enjoying what we've offered so far. He's enjoying the feel of it. And I think he can continue to play a big part of it. As long as he's fit, he's well, and he keeps playing with that edge. And he trains with it and he plays with it. And that's a good mixture.
Thanks, Fraser. We'll go to Ian at Radio Merseyside.
Hi, Sean.
Hi.
Just again on Jordan Pickford, I'm just wondering how reassuring it is to be able to work with the England #1, and in comparison, when you were at Burnley, you were able to work with Nick Pope as well, and having those two top goalkeepers in your side.
And Tom Eaton, who played for England.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, they're a good list of keepers there. Different characters, different types of keeper. I'm learning about Jordan. He's been very open about himself and how he feels about himself here. Signed a new deal, quite obviously, or looking to. So we think that was nearly there. And then it's just an idea of working with these players, finding that bond with them, and continuing their development. Like I say, development's a strange word to use with the older players. I mean, he's done a lot in his career, we know that. But there's all different ways you can rub off on people. And I look to do it myself. I've asked every player of that, regardless of age. Seamus, I was speaking to him. In the past, we had Michael Duff. At his age 37, I think he was still around the Premier League. You can learn in different ways. So we'll certainly be looking to rub off where we can on him.
And do you obviously work closely? Clubs have goalkeeper coaches, but what's the relationship in terms of coaching between you and people like Nick Pope and now Jordan Pickford?
Well, I don't get in the way of the staff so much, and they're an individual unit goalkeepers, but I think I've always had an open relationship with the goalkeepers. I don't get in the way of the technical work, but obviously the tactical understanding. So, and sometimes just the work as people, sharing that rapport with them, building rapport with them, things that have rubbed off down my career and about what I know about, football in general, and the professional side of being a footballer as well. So, there's lots of different ways, but we'll try and rub off with the culture and the environment as well, not just what I'm saying, but what we're trying to build amongst everyone.
Thanks, Ian. We'll go to Will.
Hi, Sean. What about, where's Andros Townsend in his rehab at the minute?
Yeah, he's had a bit of not really a setback, but just his knee still needs a bit of care and a bit of time, and the workload on it rather. So just kind of finding that balance. But he's going okay. We've just got to make sure that it's right. He's been through a lot, but it's settling down and it's beginning to get that workload that he needs, obviously, to get it strong enough to carry on. But not yet. He's not there yet.
Are you reluctant to put a time frame on him just because of the nature of the injury?
Yeah, I really, to be honest, I don't really do time frames on any injury. Because human bodies react in different ways. So really, it's just open-mindedness.
Yeah. You were at the under-21s game last Friday night. James Garner obviously appeared. Everton fans haven't seen him too much this season. He's been a little bit stuttering since he arrived. How much do you know about him from his time maybe at Man United and his loan spell at Forest, and what can he give this Everton team?
Well, when I came out of the last one, last season, I went down to Forest quite a lot, based there, so went down and watched a lot of their games, and he had a very, very strong season. The Championship's a different league, of course, to the Premier League, but he's got a good pedigree. From what I've seen, so he's only just been back training and getting really fit. He's not totally fit yet, but he's getting there, and I think he's a very good player. But I think there's a lot of good players here, so there'll certainly be a challenge for him going forwards. But the first challenge is to get him totally fit and fully match fit.
Just that's it's not your biggest priority, but just the younger players in general. Obviously, you're watching them. Someone like Stan Mills has scored 9 goals this season. Isaac Price is highly rated behind the scenes. What have you made of the younger crop coming through, and can any of them, say Stan Mills, have an impact in the search?
Well, I'm learning about them as I go. That's why I went to the game, and I'll try and get to a few when I can to take in, what that group's around. Speaking with the coach as well. I mean, obviously, we've been full on at the minute, laying down what we think's right for the first team squad, which they've been part of. But also drifting down through the club and getting to know the coaches, getting to know the players. So that's an ongoing basis. But there's certainly a couple, as you rightly said, that have been with us most of the time in the main first team group. And so far they're handling themselves very well.
Thanks, Will. We'll go to Shamoon at the BBC.
Hi, Sean. You settled in now, been here a couple of weeks. How have you found the job? Has it been easier or more difficult than you anticipated it to be before you came?
Well, I've walked into an environment where people work hard. Which is a great start, as in the people I've come across, not the people I brought in with me. The players equally, there's been an open-mindedness to it. So, I mean, them two things alone, that's a great start. If you have people who are working hard and an open-mindedness to what comes next, then that's a great start. So far it's been really, really good. It's not about easy or hard. No jobs are easy. It's always about hard work. But I think there's a way of working that can develop between the people that were here before, my sort of mini group who are coming in, and then working with the players, because that's the end product you want. You want the players to be in the best shape, mentally, physically, tactically, technically, to go and deliver performances. So that's what it's all geared to. But so far it's been very enjoyable. Big challenge, but very enjoyable.
And yesterday the club was fined for the confrontation against Liverpool. Today charged for what happened against Leeds. Is that a show of indiscipline from the players, or is that sort of battling spirit that a manager likes to see in the players?
No, I think, look, I mean, things get blown up nowadays, and they have to be. That's fine. I've got no problem with that. But no one got sent off. There was nothing too malicious. It's just one of them things, and that kind of such moment in a game where people get involved. I don't want to see it all the time, but it happens from time to time. It just happens that it's been a couple of games in recent times. I don't think that's the norm. But like I say, you can't, it's an odd one, isn't it? You can't ask for passion and then not accept it when it comes. Passion can't just be lovely. Sometimes it is aggressive, or it's just that kind of moment that sets something off. So, but I don't think there's anything too malicious. But I understand why the fines have to be in place. No problem with that. But there was nothing really too nasty. No red cards. Nothing too over the top. I didn't think.
And just finally, on John Pickford and Nick Pope, do you want to choose who the better goalkeeper is?
Yeah, good one.
Any further questions in the open section? Yeah.
Yeah, just a quick one if I can on Villa. Obviously they had a sort of maybe disappointing start to the season, made a managerial change. That's paid off for them. They've moved from a sort of relegation fight to being as close to European places as the bottom three. What's the challenge they present on Saturday?
Well, like you say, new manager went in, changed things certainly enough on my eyes. I was at one of the first game actually against Mathew, so I saw some changes immediately. Trying to instill his way and the way they're working. Bit of a sticky patch, but they've played two of the top sides. We know that in the last three, and Leicester were good on the day. Generally they're a good outfit. I think everyone probably thought they were did have a tough start to the season and probably thought they were better than that, and they've delivered better than that. So, the truth of the Premier League, I say all the time, it's a tough league. You've got to be ready for everyone. On paper, there's teams that statistically are tougher, but Aston Villa are a good side, so we've got to be ready to play.
Yeah, you say everybody thought they were maybe better than they were showing. I think people would say that of Everton. Are they the model to follow now for you?
I'm sure they will have done. There's no model to follow. You've got to find your own model and build it.